Well, today's sermon is entitled, Thou Shalt Not Murder, okay? Now, some of you might think, duh, okay, like I'm kind of aware we're not supposed to kill people. But let me read the verse to you, Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. It's just 4 little words. You ready for this? All right? You must not murder. Now, that third word is very important in this commandment. Not, okay? You remove that one, it becomes you must murder. No bueno, okay? Not what we're doing today. But going through the 10 Commandments, a reminder, a little bit of a review here. So far, the first 4 involve honoring God and your relationship with Him. So number 1, you should have one God that you worship. Number 2, do not make idols. So don't worship 2 or more gods. You should have one God. Number 3, there is a word you should not misuse, and that word is God. So a word you don't misuse, it's God. Number 4, honor the Sabbath and keep it holy. Go to church. 5, honor your father and mother. And 6, for some reason, some of you weirdos, this is your favorite one, okay? And I don't know what it says about you, okay? But yeah, some of you, you're making me concerned back there, okay? Because number 6 is thou shalt not murder. Bang, okay? Or some people prefer stabby stab. Or some people prefer missile. I've seen a couple of variations. You guys are creative and creepy. What? I don't know, but you guys are the ones who do it. You guys come to me. It is still murder, so no bueno, okay? So let's talk about murder, okay? Which is not a phrase usually you say. Let's talk about murder. Although some of you like those like crime murder shows with serial killers and like this podcast. Y'all are weird. I have zero interest in that. Like zero. Like I'm just not curious. I just don't care. You people are weird. Anyway, moving on. Shh. Let's define murder, though, to start us off here. What is murder? I think I have a slide for this. Yes? Yes, I do. Murder is to unjustly and intentionally take the life of another human being. God is the giver of human life. He created all life, and He created human life. And when He made humans, He said, they are set apart, they are made in my image. And so there is a higher value of worth placed on human life above animal and plant life. Now, this isn't cruelty. This is truth spoken by God, because we are made in the image of God to reflect to creation attributes of God's character and nature and function and role. So, humans are set apart in this way. So God says to murder or to unjustly and intentionally take the life of another human being is a sin. Why? Because God is a God of life, and to murder is to disrespect the life that God has given. It is to disrespect someone else's body and someone else's life, to devalue their life. God is the giver of life, and He should also be the one who times the taking of it as well. Now, the question I always get from students, though, when I preach on this is this. Well, does that mean soldiers are murderers or police officers are murderers? Or like, is all killing wrong if it's self-defense? Is it all murder? And the answer lies in these 2 underlined phrases. 1, you can unintentionally kill someone, meaning by accident. And if you do this by accident, there are still consequences in our legal system. For example, if you're negligent or you're foolish or you're operating a car under the influence of alcohol or various things like that, or even like just in true accident, you're backing up the car and you hit someone, you can kill someone and not mean to do it. And depending on your level of ignorance or negligence in that, there can be consequences for it. But it is not inherently murder if it's a mistake or an accident. Also, it is not murder if you have a justifiable reason to kill someone. You might ask, what's a justifiable reason? Well, God gives one in Genesis chapter 9. He actually says that if you shed human blood, you then can have your own blood shed. What he means by that is, if you take the life of someone else without just cause, do it on purpose, you have lost the right to your own life, and other people could kill you. It's called capital punishment. Could kill you because you've killed someone else. So if you're a murderer, then you might lose the right to your life. Even in our country, we still have the capital punishment. It's very rarely used and hard to use in our legal system, but it is something that the Bible actually dictates. It also talks about this in Romans chapter 13, that the government has the power of the sword, so it even has the right to do so, to murder people, or I should say to kill people, if they murder. All right? So, again, all killing is not murder. I would say this, though, that just because someone's a soldier, just because someone's a police officer, just because someone is in a role of authority, doesn't mean they get a free pass and they cannot murder. Of course they can. But again, was it justifiable? And here would be an example of a justifiable situation. David kills Goliath. David is not a murderer. Why? Goliath, if David did not stand in his way, would then go on to commit genocide, would go on to enslave an entire people group, to rape people, and to harm the innocent. This is what David was trying to prevent. And so he meant to say, you wish to kill and harm the innocent people of this nation, and you have defied God. Therefore, I will fight you, and I will kill you. It was actually his love that drew him to war, to fight. And so there's nothing wrong with self-defense, either defending yourself. If someone is threatening your bodily safety, your physical safety to survive and live, then you have the right to defend yourself. And if someone is threatening the safety of someone else, you have the right to protect them. So in that case, a police officer and a soldier could kill someone, and it could be justified. Or they can still, though, in practicing their job, murder someone. Like if you have an unarmed soldier and they're a prisoner and they're bound up, and then you just kill them without just cause or without doing it on purpose, then that could be murder. So you could have situations where murder takes place. So everything, again, needs to be measured out. Before God, is it just? Also before the laws of the land, is it just? Those are considerations to be given. Now, I'm willing to bet that most of you in this room haven't murdered anyone. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Everyone bow your head and close your eyes. Okay, this is a safe place. This is church. If you need to confess. So everyone bow your head and close your eyes. If you in this room today have any point in the past murdered someone else, I just want you to slip up your hand very softly and leave it up. Anyone? Okay, keep it up high so I can see it. All right. Everyone open your eyes. There they are. There they are. There they are. There they are. I see you. Okay, we're going to report them now. We have it on video, Gregory? We have it on video? Okay, we got it on video. We've got them. Boom. Going to the police. Met jail. Straight to jail. Straight to jail. This is great news. Okay, we got you. No, I'm kidding. Moving on. Probably not something on the daily that you wake up and you're like, okay, remember, don't unjustly and intentionally kill someone else today. Let's try. And like, if you do struggle with that, could you please talk to me afterwards? Like, if you're like genuinely like concerned about doing that, could we talk? I'd love to talk afterwards. Preferably with TJ or security guard. But, afterwards, like, I would love to talk to you about how you're struggling to not murder people. But usually, when we go through this list of the 10 Commandments, the one that pops out to people as, haven't done that one, is number 6, murder. Okay? You're like, okay, honor your father and mother. Okay, sometimes I do. Okay. Don't lie. Oh, yeah, that one's pretty tough, too. Don't steal. I do not steal. I borrow and don't give back. Oh, wait. Yeah, that's stealing. Okay, looking through the list. But then everyone comes to number 6, and they go, boom. I totally have not broken that one. Check, okay? It's kind of like when you're taking a test, and you think you're going to fail it, and you write your name on it, and you're like, ha, got that one right, okay? And you write your name down, and just build some momentum. At least for me, building momentum, write the name, write the date. Then I write the teacher's name, and I spell it wrong, and I'm like, okay, maybe I am going to be in trouble. But anyway, going through here, Jesus sees that people would look at this commandment and be like, see, I can fulfill that one. And so when Jesus was preaching once, he elevated the standard for this to show them the intentionality behind it. And he says, murder is not just, are you taking someone's life unjustly and intentionally? He elevates the standard to show what God's heart is like. So if you could skip to the next slide back there. So our next slide is this Matthew 5. Jesus is speaking, and he says, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders is liable of judgment. We just read that. You shall not murder. But I say to you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be liable of judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says you fool will be liable to the fires of hell. He's basically saying if you have ever called someone a name, called someone stupid, insulted them, or even been angry in your heart and had hatred in your heart towards them, you have murdered them. He also says in 1 John, or at least in 1 John it says, chapter 3, verse 15, it says, everyone who hates his brother is a murderer, because you are murdering them in your heart and with your words. Oh, I realize that's a different translation, but that's okay. Anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer. You know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. Different translation. Anyway, so here's what we're going to do. Okay, you can keep your eyes open, but if anybody in this room has ever insulted someone, said mean words to them, called them names, had hatred or anger in their heart towards someone else, could I just get a show of hands, please? Where are you? Yes, raise your hands. Keep them up. Keep them up. Some of you have your hands down, and I don't believe you. You raise your hand for murdering people, and then you don't raise your hand for this one? Yeah, you're believable. Okay. Okay, keep them up if you have done this to more than one person. Yeah, right. You have brothers. Okay, get your hand up. I know you have that. Okay, this means that we are all serial murderers. Okay, so this room now, you can go home. Your parents are like, I'm a little worried to ask because every time I do, it's a little scary. What'd you learn in church today? I'm a serial murderer. So are my friends. The pastor had his hand up too. It's all on video. You know, like, oh boy, this is... They're going to be like, I'm not sending him back to that church again. She's never going back to church. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to talk to that pastor. He's a little edgy. Okay, moving on. It's on YouTube. Your parents can watch it. All right, moving on. The idea, though, is, what are we saying here? God is saying, look, I have a higher standard in the way you treat other people than don't kill them. It's a low bar, a very low bar. I am saying with your words, be kind. With your attitude, have love in your heart. Practice love and not hatred towards one another. And so we're going to take an angle in today's sermon that you might not have expected when I started talking about murder. But we're going to talk about not hating one another. And in particular, we're going to talk about thou shalt not hate from the angle that I believe is something that middle school and high school, and unfortunately adults, deal with. The way that they practice their hatred, which is the topic of bullying. And I know you might be like, Barrett, that feels like a stretch. And I just don't think it is. Jesus says, look, if you call someone an idiot, or you have hatred in your heart towards someone, or you insult them, then you're murdering them in your heart and with your words. And that's, I think, what bullying looks like. So today's sermon is actually going to be entitled, Thou Shalt Not Bully. All right, I think we have a slide for it back there. And you can throw up the first point. Jesus speaks to each of the bullies, each of the people involved in bullying in different ways. And the first definition, I got to give a definition for what bullying is. Bullying is to use superior strength or influence to intimidate someone, typically to force him or her to do something that one wants to do. A noun for a bully would be a person who uses strength or power to intimidate or harm those around them. Bullying takes a lot of different forms. There is verbal bullying, which can be teasing, name-calling, taunting, inappropriate sexual comments, threatening language. And this starts off with what might feel innocent in elementary school. You know, like the worst word you maybe know is like stupid head in elementary school. And so like, you know, some 5-year-old in the playground like jumps in front of you and like, you know, maybe knocks you back a little bit. And you're like, hey, watch it, stupid head. And it's like, whoa. He took 2 words and put them together. He called him a stupid and his whole head is that. Whoa. And that's where the brain is. Whoa, you know, like, whoa, that's a bad, and then somebody like goes home and watches a PG-13 movie, and they're like, I know a new word, and it's got 4 letters. Yeah, I know. And they start using a 4-letter word. By the way, I'll just say this. Some people think it's like really mature or cool or tough to use curse words in their language. And I would just like to suggest to you, You can literally make a 4-year-old say a curse word. It doesn't make you suddenly that 4-year-old's tougher or meaner or anything like that. It just means they actually lack discernment and wisdom in what they're able to speak, and they lack control over their vocabulary. Anyway, just throwing that out there. But back to this, verbal bullying, it escalates as you get older. And these words, while we might laugh at them a little bit, actually carry amazing weight and pain with them. I was sitting around in college with a bunch of my buddies, and we were doing a Bible study together, and the guy leading it said, I want to talk about the power of words. So he gave all of us a note card. And he said, when you were in elementary school, so kindergarten to 5th grade, I want you to write down any insults or names that you were called or hurtful things that were spoken to you by someone else. Every guy in our group filled the entire card. We remembered names that we had been called, nicknames that we had been given that we didn't like, insults, the actual jokes made about us. We remembered it all. And some of them, reading them to each other, now we can kind of laugh like, that was so stupid or silly or cringe or whatever. But let me tell you this. I don't remember all of my teachers' names in elementary school. But I remember the insults that my classmates said to me. It is the power that words can carry in our life. And when you speak these words over someone, it can truly wound their hearts. You can also bully someone socially. Social bullying looks like, and this is intentional, okay? Remember I said it's intentional. So sometimes you might get left out or embarrassed by someone by accident, and I don't think that's bullying. I think maybe they just weren't paying attention. It was an accident. But if on purpose you leave someone out, you embarrass someone in public, you alienate them from activity, you remove them from a group chat, you purposefully try to shame or embarrass them in a social context, that's bullying. There's also, of course, physical bullying, hitting, spitting, tripping, pushing, hand gestures towards someone or stealing from them. And then there's cyberbullying, which a lot of boomers like to talk about. Like, don't cyberbully kids, watch what you say online. But there's something different where people will say things that are harsher online to each other than they would have the courage and the guts to say to each other in person. I experienced this. I've never had a 7 or 8-year-old try to say to me really inappropriate curse words or anything like that. Until during COVID, I got bored and my bud's like, dude, let me lend you my Xbox. And I hopped on, what's that game called? I'm literally forgetting the name right now. It's Fortnite, yeah. I hopped on Fortnite. And I had like 8-year-olds that were saying words to me, and I'm like, you would never say that in my presence. But because I'm just some random person on the other end of a headset, you are now using language that would get you fired if you were an adult, using words that you have no business using, and disrespecting me as an adult because you suddenly are courageous because you're hiding behind your anonymity, hiding behind the fact that no one knows who you are. And so sometimes you will comment or message or share things that are so much more hurtful online than you would ever be willing to say to someone's face. Because if you said it to their face, you'd either see how they respond and feel ashamed, or you'd say it to their face and be afraid because you don't have the guts to say it to their face. So this is how bullying can look, and the damage is really challenging to measure. But a study was done that proved that in America, the National Education Association found that close to 160,000 kids per school day stay home from school because they're afraid to go to school or intimidated by the bullies that are there. They're calling out sick, pretending to not be able to go to school because they're afraid of what's waiting for them or who's waiting for them or which insults or which names or which physical assault or which social bullying is going to take place. And this is a serious problem that must be addressed. And I'll start with the hardest part about this problem is I'm going to bring it up, and the people that are going to listen the most careful to this sermon are probably not the people that need to hear this. It's the person that would laugh at this sermon, roll their eyes, not pay attention, or think this is just not something that's that big of a deal or a problem. And so let me talk to 3 different people that deal with bullying, because all of us do deal with bullying in some capacity. Let me first talk to the bully. To the bully, Jesus says to you that you are to love one another. When you bully someone else, what you are doing is you are saying, I devalue this individual and their life. When you murder someone, you're saying, I have life, you have life, but I don't think you deserve to keep your life. And so you are literally stealing from them their life that was given to them by God. That is why it is sinful and wrong. And when you bully, with your words, you steal a little bit of life from that person. When you physically assault them, you steal a little bit of their health. When you socially bully them, you steal a little bit of their safety that they might feel. And you are robbing them in little pieces of their life. And you are not entitled and do not deserve to do that. Jesus looks to you and he still loves you. But he looks to you and says, that is my son or my daughter that you are rebuking, that you are insulting, that you are belittling, that you are physically harming. If you guys want to see me mad, you insult my children or physically threaten my children, you will see me mad, and you should see me mad. You want to see me light up? When you express love to my children and make them feel safe, I light up. And Jesus looks to you and says, why are you hurting the people that I love? Why are you calling my children these cruel words? And you need to realize that other people bleed, other people feel, other people have a soul just as much as you do. And you are not entitled to harming them just because you can, or just because you felt like it, or just because they irritated you, or whatever lame excuse you've come up with. And as I said earlier, to be fair, some bullies might not realize it. I think often in middle school, I didn't realize how cruel I was at times with some of the things I said until I matured. And I'm like, wow, I said some really horrible things to people that I call my friends. Wow, I said some really cruel things to guys on my sports team, or guys in my friend group, or guys in my school class that were not edifying or building up. They tore them down. And that was ignorance. And so maybe, hopefully today, some of you that have struggled with bullying are hearing this and you're going, whoa, I didn't even think about it. But yeah, I have been kind of being a bully. I encourage you to repent. Go ask that person to forgive you. Practice kindness. But the bullies that I'm actually concerned about are the ones that hear what I'm sharing and think this is funny or don't care or like, so what? I hurt people's feelings. People are too weak. People should stop complaining, or people should stop whining, or they should stop snitching on me for being mean to others. See, whenever someone complains about snitching, what they're actually doing is they're saying, I don't want to take responsibility for what I did. You wouldn't say someone's snitching on you if they're like, hey, teacher, you won't believe this. This person over there was being super kind, or they were getting great grades, or they were really good at sports. It's not snitching. It's actually lifting them up, bragging. What is snitching to them? Holding you accountable for your own sin. Hey, this person was lying or gossiping. This person was being verbally abusive. Or this person was beating someone up. You're snitching on me. Why? You want what you've done to stay a secret. Why? Because you know it's shameful. Part of being responsible and being more adult-like is the words that you speak and the things that you do, you own. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, I did that. And you operate in this ownership of your own words, even when it's embarrassing, even when it's wrong. But someone who complains about snitching is trying to get away from the responsibility of their mistakes. And they're trying to punish, and they're trying to avoid what? The person with actual authority that is going to come and reprimand them. They're afraid of people that have more strength over them and will hold them accountable. All that to say, the bully will unfortunately often not care about the person that they're harming, not be mindful of who they hurt. And I would say to this bully, you need to recognize that God loves you even though you've done wrong. He still loves you. And if he loves you, you are then called to love another, to love other people, and not practice this hatred or cruelty towards them. God also speaks, and I believe Jesus would speak, to the victim of bullying. And to the actual victim of bullying, I believe that Jesus would say to them that you are to forgive one another. Now, I know what you were hoping that this would say. You would say, to the victim, Jesus says, learn jujitsu and learn what an arm bar is and dislocate a bully's arm so that their elbow is no longer attached at the proper ligament. That's not what it says, okay? I bet you were thinking, to the victim, Jesus says, I am vengeance. I am the night. I will find your bully and I will beat them with my bare fists. Like, I know you were thinking that, okay? I don't do a good Batman, but unfortunately, my daughter, who's 2 years old, Eden, her favorite, like, I have all these dolls for her, all these, like, cute little plushy animals, and she likes those, but her favorite one is Batman. I don't know why. I have, like, a little, like, Batman about this tall, and he's, like, the Lego Batman-looking Batman, but he's, like, lighter, I don't know. I think it's actually from, like, Bat Cars or Bat Wheels or whatever it's called. Anyway, it's that Batman, and I have to, like, do a tea party as Batman. Do you have any idea how hard it is to be Batman at a tea party? I do, because I do it a lot, okay? Would you please pass the sugar muffins, fluffer nugget? It's really hard, and my voice hurts. Wow, I'm getting distracted. Okay, anyway. I will do anything for my daughters, and so that includes being Batman at a tea party. But anyway, Jesus doesn't say, I will be Batman and beat up your bad people in your life. Here's what he tells us and even commands us. I want you to forgive one another. I want you to forgive one another. Now, I know this is difficult. And let me start by saying this. There is a time and a place and a proper way to stand up to a bully, and you should and can do this. But please understand a right level of escalation. If someone bumps into you in a hallway, that doesn't then give you permission to punch them in the face and put them on the ground and continue punching them in the face. They bumped you in the hallway. Okay, they bumped you. Now, if it is a habit or a pattern, maybe we should address it. The Bible also talks about, though, how Jesus says, turn the other cheek. And people are like, well, Jesus said turn the other cheek, so if I get hit or insulted or anything, I guess I should just let it be. That's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus says if someone strikes you on the right side of your face with their left hand, then you should turn the other cheek. What he means by that is, did I get that wrong? Oh, yeah, you're just answering the question. Correct. Yes, like usually if I'm going to punch someone, I would use my right hand and I would hit them. So, Valor, can I punch you? Stand up. Yes, please. So, this is Valor's left side, or right side, right? This is your left side, okay? So, if I were to hit him with my right hand on his left cheek, that means it's a punch. But the verse says that if someone hits you with their left hand on your left cheek, well, I would have to, like, move over here to get that punch in. So what he's actually saying is, Jesus is saying, if someone slaps you, backhanded is actually what Jesus is describing. Thank you, I slapped you, but I didn't really. Jesus is saying, look, if someone insults you, just walk away. Like, who cares? Like, they insulted you, move on with your life. But if someone hits you, it's a little different. We actually have an example of when Jesus got hit in the face and what he said to the bully who hit him. Jesus is on trial where people are speaking lies over him and people are treating him poorly. And Jesus said something and someone hit him in the face. They punched him in the face. John chapter, I believe it was 18? Yeah, 18. And Jesus looked at him and he spoke and he said, if I said something wrong, testify as what to I said wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you hit me? Jesus said, did I deserve that? Do you think that was right? Do you think that was appropriate? Why'd you hit me? Give me a reason. I think you could say that to a bully. Why do you talk that way to people? Do you think you're better than people? Honestly, like, answer the question. Oh, you think you're better than people? So let me help you. God says that you're not. So you're not. And I would handle each bully in my life in different situations in different ways. Okay? I had my worst bully in middle school was named Austin. And Austin was a bully. I'm sorry, okay? Get over it. You're fine. He was just like the meanest guy in his like green shirt. No, I'm kidding. Moving on. But the idea being, this guy bullied me a lot. And so each bully was a little bit different. Sometimes if someone was mean to me, I would be like super nice to that guy, and suddenly we'd be like best friends. And it's great to be best friends with the scariest people, because then they scare the other people, so that's helpful. So I would sometimes just become best friends. Sometimes that wouldn't work. Sometimes they respected you if you stood up for yourself. And they're like, all right, well, I can't pick on that guy, or he's going to pick on me back. But this one guy, Austin, was constantly picking on me. He was literally twice my size, and in football, he would destroy me and crush me. And I remember not treating him well. And here's what I mean by that. I remember he got injured in football and dislocated his shoulder. Had a real bad dislocation that actually required surgery. Took him months and months of rehab, and he finally came back to practice. And the first day he came back, big sigh. I was frustrated. He was back, and I had had kind of a freedom from him. And sure enough, he comes into the huddle. He says some things to the other guys that were inappropriate, and then calls me a name I won't repeat. Oh, I missed you too, and then said something pretty harsh. Well, we line up for our first tackling drill, and I line up with him. And I thought, I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. Now, in football, that's actually okay. I can do that. Actually, it hurts less in football the harder you hit someone. So we line up for a drill. I did nothing dirty. I just hit him as hard as I could, and I ran at the bully. I'm like, he is going to try and embarrass me in front of my entire team, so I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. So I ran and I hit him, and his same shoulder, the first play back, dislocated. And I remember him lying on the ground, and he was truly crying, and the pain was severe. And I'm embarrassed to tell you this out loud, but I would like to tell you this out loud. In my heart, in that moment, I had hatred towards him. I had not forgiven him. And I looked at him and I thought, good. Good. You deserve to feel pain because you've caused me a lot of pain too. And he left, and I went to church, and after a couple weeks, I began thinking about this, and I'm like, this is not right. I have had this hatred in my heart towards Austin. This is not right. So I went back to school, and I went up to him. He was in this like special cast because his arm was getting surgically repaired again. He had to go through rehab again. And I went up to him, and I'm like, hey, man, I know we don't get along, and I just want to say, like, one, I'm sorry that it happened like when I hit you. But two, like, I just have been really angry at you because you bullied me, and I just wanted to say, like, I forgive you, and I'm sorry for being hateful and rude to you too. And you know what he said to me? He said, shut up, dude. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. He wanted nothing to do with the forgiveness I extended to him. But I let it go. I think that was the right thing to do. And looking back, I felt sorry for him. And looking back, I'm able to back up and see the bigger picture of my life and of his life. But I wanted to extend to him the forgiveness that Jesus extended to me. I messed up. I was cruel. I had hatred in my heart, and Jesus looked at me and said, I still love you, Barrett, even though you were cruel to Austin and you hated him in your heart. The proper way to handle a bully cannot be to have hatred back towards them. It cannot. Now, I will say this. If you are a victim of bullying, particularly if you've asked the bully to stop and it won't, particularly if you are physically unsafe, tell someone. Tell someone. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. They should not do this. And if this happens in this youth group or at one of our camps, you tell me. I've always said anyone is welcome in our middle school youth group. You don't have to believe what we believe. You can be of another religion. Anybody can come to our youth group. However, if you will not respect other people, be it by stealing from them or physically hurting them or verbally abusing them, and you repeatedly do these things, or if you're a distraction to other people, you can't listen after we've constantly told you, hey, we can't be a distraction during service, during worship, or you're causing an issue during our service, then we will ask you to leave. Because I, as a pastor, wish to protect you guys. And sometimes that requires protecting you from each other. The Bible talks about pastors being shepherds, and sometimes they must fend off the wolves. And some people are wolves. They desire to kill and to steal and to harm and destroy. And sometimes they must be taken out, if you will, removed. And there's been seasons where that's happened. And so I say this to you to say, please, if you're at one of our events, come up to me, Come up to Rachel, come up to Alex. You don't have to know our names. Just go to an adult leader and say, hey, this is happening, and we want to make it right. And if you're like, hey, I told someone and it didn't happen, come tell me. Come tell Rachel. We will handle it. I would like it to be handled, or it will be removed. The third point, though, is this. To the bystander, Jesus says, defend one another. I remember a little bit later, we were the 8th graders going into 9th grade, and at my small Christian school, the 9th graders, the freshmen, had to play on the varsity football team. So we moved up, and Austin was still on my team. So I'm still all through middle school dealing with Austin, and then still dealing with him into high school. And I remember we had a captain on the team named Nathan, and Nathan wore the C on his chest and all that. So the freshmen were practicing with the seniors. I don't remember what it was. There was another sport going on. It was like a spring practice, or maybe the baseball team was there. But it was only me and Austin were the only freshmen that were there. And so we had to line up and go against each other, and I kept getting absolutely destroyed, and it was just horrible, and he was picking on me, and it was bad. And at one point, Nathan, the captain, the senior of the football team, who barely knew my name, called out Austin and was like, hey, you're a freshman. Could you shut your mouth talking about this other guy? And I know it sounds like a harsh thing that he said, but he stood up for me, and he defended me. And if anybody on the team, we'd rag on each other a little bit, but if anybody had too much of an edge, Nathan would pull him aside and be like, dude, you just disrespected the coach. Who do you think you are? Get in line. This is another student that was doing this, Nathan, the captain. The coaches didn't even have to deal with issues because Nathan was going around and he would handle them for the coaches. And amongst ourselves, he'd ask, hey, you getting water? Okay, good, these guys got water. He's a senior. Some seniors would be like, get out of my way, I'm getting water first. No, he went out of his way to show leadership and to protect and to look out for us. I challenge you, if you're in this room, if you are not bullying someone, or maybe you're not struggling with being bullied, maybe you need to stand up for someone. Speak for them. Speak with them. Confront someone. Not to escalate it, but to be like, why are you being so cruel? Why are you being so rude? Maybe it needs to be private, one-on-one with the person that's being a bully. Maybe it needs to be public in front of everyone. Because if they're bullying being public, maybe your rebuke of their bullying should be public. Why do you always have negative things to say? Can we be kinder? Can we practice kindness? Usually people are quiet. Why? Because you don't want to get the attention of the bully now on you. You would rather chuckle along with their lame jokes or insults or name calling so you don't get their attention. Jesus is saying that's not how I operate. Jesus was present once when a woman was being insulted. A woman came in, and the disciples said, what is she doing here? She's not worthy to be here. Actually, she's a horrible woman. She's done some horrible things. And they began listing the horrible things she's done. They said, Jesus, you should have nothing to do with this woman. You shouldn't allow her to even be near to you. And Jesus said, leave her alone. What are you doing? Can't you see this woman's actually doing a good thing? And he rebukes his disciples publicly and defends this woman in their presence. He literally rebukes his own friends because they were bullying this woman. Are you brave enough to do something like that? Now, you can do it with tact. You don't have to do it with rudeness or harshness. But sometimes harshness is required at a proper measure, in a proper context. But I would rather be known as someone who uses their leadership abilities to protect people and help people than using my leadership abilities to take from or abuse or physically or verbally insult people or harm them. So what if our youth group was a place where this was the norm? Where actually the person that was pushed to the outsides was the bully. Hey, if you're going to treat people like this, we're going to call you out and we're going to rebuke you. This doesn't happen here. See, peer pressure is not always bad. Adults will be like, oh, peer pressure is horrible. No, peer pressure can be great. Depends on what your peers are pressuring you to do. If they're pressuring you to not be a bully, you've got some good peers. You've got some good people in your life. Maybe, you need to take someone aside and in a separate chat be like, hey, in the group chat, you're being really harsh to this person. Have you ever asked them how they feel about that? Hey, you're making these kind of jokes about this person. Have you ever asked that person how they feel about those kind of jokes, if those are appropriate? Maybe you need to have those conversations with a friend. Or maybe you need to be told some of these things. Are you willing to be humble enough to say, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to stop. Maybe I do need to change. These are uncomfortable things to talk about. But I would rather talk about them now to help you guys and protect you guys, sometimes from yourselves and sometimes from others. So, I know it feels like we got off base from murder, but I don't think we did. Because Jesus said you should not hate in your heart. And bullying is practicing hatred. And sometimes even when you're being bullied, you can practice hatred towards the person that hurts you or harms you. So to the bully, Jesus says you need to love one another. Stop your bullying. Stop pretending that you're better than someone else or harming them. To the victim, you need to forgive each other, even if they've done you wrong. You could come up here and I bet we could all get note cards and write horrible things people have done or said to us. But we still need to extend them forgiveness, for Jesus forgave us. There's a place for standing up to them, but maybe the victim should stand up to them, but also maybe you as a bystander should stand up for someone else that is being bullied. So I say all of this to you because I love you guys and I hope it encourages you. All right? Service is done. You're free to go.